This time, it must be a clean break. In the future, your feet are not allowed to touch even a speck of dust on their floor. Jack accelerated in the overtaking lane, his brows furrowed, lecturing Cora with a constant stream of words. Cora had been listening all along, holding back her frustration. Finally, she turned to her older brother and said, "Bro, can you ask Dad to stop?" Her older brother glanced at Jack but didn't dare to speak up. Jack, relentless in his taunts, continued, "You're getting all worked up again? After dating that poor guy for a few years, you still have the nerve. You're 26 now, not a kid anymore. I don't care, but are you going to endure this with him?" Cora sighed, looking out of the car window at the rapidly retreating poplar trees, feeling a dizzy spell. The reason Jack came to Hangzhou with such determination was that Cora's childhood friend had recently gotten married. Her friend married a reliable and stable man, bought a house in the local county, and invited Cora to be the bridesmaid. Naturally, Jack also had to attend the wedding. The rural wedding was lively and compact, with neighbors and relatives from near and far joining in the joy. They all praised Cora's friend for her good luck. Noticing Cora on the side, someone added, "Cora, you should hurry up too. Everyone knows Jack favors his daughter. When you have a child, he'll be fighting to take care of it." Facing the newlyweds at the same table, Jack touched his receding hairline awkwardly, diverted the topic, and said, "This silly girl, no need to rush. Take your time." Although he said that, Jack's eyes during the meal made Cora uncomfortable. That night, Jack erupted. Having grown up together, Jack couldn't understand why Cora made such a decision. He couldn't comprehend why she chose someone like Adrian. Lacking money and looks, and living so far away from their home, Jack couldn't accept it. He believed that Cora could find someone better. Cora pouted, "I like him. Why should I compare with others? Besides, your daughter isn't that pretty either. Why complain about others?" The term "someone like Adrian" referred to Adrian. Jack had known about Adrian's existence for a long time, but back then, he didn't pay much attention. He thought Cora was still young, and there was no rush. He believed that once she finished school and returned to their hometown, she would naturally break up with Adrian. However, in the following years, Cora didn't follow Jack's plans at all. Cora studied quarantine science, and Jack, using his connections, arranged for her to work at a hospital in their hometown. After graduation, she would start working. However, Cora secretly took a job in Hangzhou, earning a salary similar to what she would have earned in their hometown. The expenses, however, were vastly different. Jack was furious during a video call when he found out. He saw Adrian wearing oversized underwear in the background, and it nearly gave him high blood pressure. Cora and Adrian started living together. Over the years, Jack complained a lot, but Cora brushed it off. The accumulated frustration and resentment towards Adrian grew until it poured out at the wedding. Without Cora's knowledge, Jack sent a text to Adrian, "When are you planning to get married? Let's not talk about houses and cars. When will you have the money for the wedding expenses, the betrothal gifts, and the jewelry? Give me a promise, and I'll agree to let you two be together." Knowing that Jack had sent a message, Cora stomped her foot in anger and prepared to call Adrian to explain. Unexpectedly, Adrian replied. Before Cora could read it, Jack answered the call. His eyes, a little blurry due to presbyopia, squinted at the message that read, "Uncle Jack, I'm sorry. I can't promise you right away. I can't produce the things you asked for immediately. If you want to get married now, I can melt my mom's jewelry to buy new ones for Cora." Jack snorted as he looked at the message. He couldn't give you anything. Cora, standing behind him, finished reading the message and fell silent. With a sidelong glance at Cora, Jack, full of doubt and disappointment, arranged for her next steps. Jack, accompanied by Cora and her brother, drove to Hangzhou to bring back all of Cora's belongings, and incidentally, to sever ties with Adrian. Thinking that the situation might be a bit difficult, Jack, with the determination to fight if necessary, brought his son along. However, upon seeing Adrian for the first time, Jack, who had a lot to say, surprisingly couldn't utter a word. In his mind, Adrian, whom he had imagined as a dubious character, actually looked quite pleasing in person. Adrian awkwardly greeted them, but Jack walked past him directly into the rented room. Cora, following behind, had a complex expression. Adrian leaned back against the door, accepting Jack's inspection. It was the first time Jack saw the full picture of their rented room, small, windowless, damp, with gray walls, a wardrobe against the wall emitting a faint moldy smell, a 1.5-meter bed, and a dining table. Though tidy, there weren't many belongings. Except for the proximity to Cora's workplace, there was nothing else to appreciate. Jack's gaze was drawn to a photo on the table, a picture of Cora and Adrian by Westlake, with Cora smiling brilliantly, reminiscent of her sweetness during a primary school performance. Jack blinked forcefully, feeling a sting in his nose, and his heart clenched. What kind of life was Cora leading out here? He might not be a wealthy father, but his daughter was his treasure. Cora always said everything was fine, but Jack never imagined it would be this bleak. Adrian's voice came from behind, lacking confidence. "Uncle Jack, are you here to discuss marriage this time?" Jack sat on the edge of the bed and said, "No, I'm here to help Cora make a decision because you two are not suitable. You're a good kid, and you'll meet a good girl in the future. But for now, let go of my girl." Adrian, looking at Cora on the side, seemed to be waiting for her reaction. He pushed up his glasses, failing to hide tears falling down. "I know I don't have much money, but I've always relied on myself. I'll work hard to give Cora a good life. I've told you about the betrothal gifts, I'll figure that out. I can use my mom's set for now, and later, I'll buy a new one for Cora." Jack angrily shouted, "Is that reasonable?" Adrian stared at the ground, mustered courage, and retorted, "Uncle Jack, what about Cora? Have you considered her feelings in all this worldly matter? We've been together since university, and it's not easy for us. If you break us up, will you be happy?" Suddenly, Cora rushed over to stand in between them. "Adrian, don't yell at my dad. Can't we talk about being together without involving my dad? Speaking of worldly matters, isn't that what we're discussing?" Adrian, gritting his teeth, said, "Is this the tone for a discussion? I didn't catch that. I can't magically produce millions. If you think I'm poor, and you prefer your dad, then go with him. I have nothing more to say." Cora, breathing heavily, Jack could see she wasn't feeling good. She spoke each word deliberately. "Adrian, if I loved money, I wouldn't have been with you from the start. But at least you should have a commitment, right? Why did you say you couldn't make a promise when my dad texted you?" "My dad used to nag a lot, and I didn't listen because I trusted you. But I'm not a utility pole, standing there, waiting for you forever." Cora tightened her fists, her voice trembling. "I can live without materialism and have a good life with you. But it has to be willingly on my part, not you demanding it. The way you speak makes me feel like all you want is a girl who doesn't care about money, loves only you, and endures hardship without complaints. Whether that girl is me or not, it doesn't matter. Don't think being poor makes it right." Adrian was rendered speechless by Cora's outburst, and Jack, standing on the side, was equally shocked. Cora had never been this passionate before. Before Jack could say anything, Cora, wiping away tears, ran out. Adrian's body leaned towards the door, as if he wanted to follow, but in the end, he didn't. He slumped against the wall, powerless, squatting there in silence. From the depths of his heart, Jack sighed. Now, he couldn't bring himself to say anything. Seeing Adrian like this, he couldn't immediately move Cora's things. It would be too ruthless and might provoke him further. Besides, Cora didn't seem ready to let go. Jack approached, wanting to pat Adrian's shoulder, but his hand hung in midair, unable to descend. Jack stared at Adrian's disheveled head, feeling suddenly like a villain. At this moment, Adrian must be feeling an unprecedented heaviness on him, surrounded by a world of darkness. And the instigator of all this was Jack. With a heavy heart, Jack walked out, got into the car. Cora sat in the back seat, covering her head with a jacket, her shoulders trembling. His son, with a helpless expression, sat in the driver's seat. He had taken leave to accompany his father, not daring to disobey Jack's instructions. Jack silently took out a cigarette, fumbled with the lighter, striking it a few times with sporadic sparks that flashed and disappeared, much like the fading enthusiasm Jack had when he first came to Hangzhou. Suddenly, a question arose out of nowhere. What was he doing? Jack felt lost. Was what he was doing really right? In this way, Jack's originally planned quick resolution was disrupted. They settled in a hotel near the rental house. Cora stayed in her room, remaining silent despite Jack knocking on the door. His son was busy working on the computer, and Jack hesitated to disturb him, considering he had been coerced into coming along this time. With a heart full of worries that couldn't be resolved, Jack had no choice but to go out and take a walk in the evening breeze. He walked to a massage parlor. After driving for nearly 7 to 8 hours from his hometown to Hangzhou, Jack's shoulders were stiff, and he really wanted to relax. Looking through the glass door, the people inside had already noticed him, and someone walked over to open the door. Upon entering, Jack saw many people on a row of bed-like benches, lying, sitting, or leaning. The friendly proprietress asked Jack where he felt uncomfortable, offering foot soaks or massages for shoulders, neck, and lower back. Thinking that he felt uncomfortable everywhere, Jack pointed to the cheapest option on the price list and said, "Just a half-hour shoulder massage." The proprietress's warm tone suddenly turned cold, resembling the sound of a boiling kettle. She turned her head towards the corridor of the massage parlor and shouted, "Adrian, is your uniform ready? You'll give this customer a half-hour massage." Jack was momentarily stunned, thinking he had misheard. However, his fleeting thought was quickly confirmed. A young man, adjusting his clothes, with a thick and rough head of hair, hurriedly emerged from the inner room. He looked surprised at first, then embarrassed and conflicted upon seeing Jack. Unaware of the subtle atmosphere between Jack and Adrian, the proprietress continued cheerfully, "Adrian, the downstairs is full. Take him upstairs." Seeing Adrian hesitating, the proprietress urged him to move quickly. Jack spoke up, "Come on, let's go upstairs." Only then did Adrian shift his feet. Upstairs, Jack couldn't hold back and asked, "Aren't you and Cora working at that health station?" "How?" Adrian gestured for Jack to put his face down and said, "The salary there is not enough. I come here to work at night. I learned this back in school, following a teacher." With his face buried in the massage bed's hole, Jack's back facing Adrian, he looked at the floor and said, "Cora never mentioned it to me." As Adrian began massaging, his touch was quite strong. Jack exclaimed, and Adrian quickly stopped, saying, "Uncle, is it too much? If it's uncomfortable, I'll go lighter." Jack smiled and said, "It's okay, just go a bit gentler." Adrian, also smiling sheepishly, said, "I forgot to mention, I tend to use a bit more force. By the way, you asked me something earlier. Well, I used to work part-time in a more formal traditional Chinese medicine clinic after work and on weekends. I earned a bit more there, and with the salary, it's over 10,000 a month. Recently, they hired a relative, and I got laid off. I haven't found a similar job yet, so I'm managing here for now. It's close to where I live. Cora probably didn't tell you because most people look down on this kind of work, and I was afraid you wouldn't approve." Adrian continued talking while massaging. Jack closed his eyes and listened. Adrian shared about his hardworking parents, his childhood, and how he met Cora. In the end, Adrian choked up while talking about himself. "Uncle, I've been working part-time since I started college, saving money. I have some savings. I won't deceive you. Buying a house in Hangzhou is impossible for me, but with what my parents can contribute, I can make a down payment in my hometown. I'm just worried that you won't like our place, it's a small town." Jack sighed deeply, struggling to express his current state of mind. Having gone through hardships himself, he couldn't bring himself to make things difficult for Adrian. When he got married, Cora's mother didn't have a good life, and later, with better conditions, she didn't have the good fortune to enjoy it, leaving behind 2 children before passing away. Why should he make things difficult for Adrian? Throughout the process, Adrian's strong hands pressed with just the right amount of force, adapting to Jack's firm physique. Unconsciously, Jack's back felt comfortable, and his tightly closed eyes gradually became moist. When the 30 minutes were up, the proprietress came up to remind them. Jack got up, rubbed his face with both hands, and stood up to go downstairs, trying not to look at Adrian. He felt strange. That sensation was like the bitter and warm smell of wormwood leaves in the massage parlor. Bitter, yet somewhat comforting. At the payment counter, Adrian insisted on not letting Jack scan the code. He said, "I won't let you pay no matter what I say." While talking to the proprietress, he said, "He's my acquaintance, put it on my tab." Jack insisted on scanning, and the proprietress became anxious. She sent him out, saying, "Hey, big brother, it's just a friendly gesture from the kid. Don't refuse. Next time you come, we'll definitely take your money, okay?" Adrian, frozen smile on his face, still tried to wave his hand, saying, "All right, take it easy on your way back tonight." Early the next morning, Jack brought Cora to the rental house, and Cora hung her head low. He stepped forward, pushed the door open, and saw Adrian sitting on the edge of the bed, beside 2 large suitcases. Adrian stood up, looking sorrowful, and said to Cora behind Jack, "I've packed your things. Check to see if anything's missing." After hearing this, Cora couldn't help but tear up. She looked at Jack, hesitated, and Jack, seeing her like this, pursed his lips and said, "If you have something to say, say it." Cora took 2 steps forward, took Adrian's hand, surprising him. She looked at Jack seriously and said, "Dad, I've thought about it all night. I want to stay and talk to Adrian. You and my brother can go back to our hometown first, and we'll handle our affairs ourselves. I was stubborn before. Over these years, I've come to understand Adrian well. He is willing to endure hardships, treats me well, and our combined salaries aren't as low as you think. It's just that Adrian is frugal and spends money wisely. I don't like people who spend money recklessly. Together, we can work hard, and we won't worry about our future. So, you don't need to worry." After saying this, Cora turned to look at Adrian, who was taken aback. She continued, "Dad, I've thought about it all night. I want to stay and talk to Adrian. You and my brother can go back to our hometown first, and we'll handle our affairs ourselves. I was stubborn before. Over these years, I've come to understand Adrian well. He is willing to endure hardships, treats me well, and our combined salaries aren't as low as you think. It's just that Adrian is frugal and spends money wisely. I don't like people who spend money recklessly. Together, we can work hard, and we won't worry about our future. So, you don't need to worry." Cora then looked at Adrian, who quickly understood. He said, "Uncle, let me express once again. I truly want to marry Cora and can take on the responsibility. If we get married, we'll definitely buy new items for the wedding." Jack was amused by the last sentence, finally revealing a smile. He said, "Forget it. I wanted to see how Cora would choose this morning. Adrian, you're a planned young man, and I don't want to meddle too much. It's tiring. But if you dare to bully Cora, no matter how far, I will bring my son to beat you up." His son at the door shrugged and said, "All right, old man, let's go. I've said it before, young people have their own ideas. You don't need to interfere." Jack shouted at him, "I'll get you later." Then, he turned around, and his gaze met Adrian's. The two smiled at each other, their eyes slightly moist.